now. There you go.
Hi, I'm Spencer from Freedom Physical Therapy Services, and today I'm going to talk to you about the kettlebell swing. So this is a really great exercise that gets your posterior chain going, makes you really strong, good cardiovascular workout that I typically see a lot of people not do quite right. So again, kind of going with some of my past videos, we're just going to work on cleaning up some of the fundamentals of some of these lifts that I feel are like really important ones for people to utilize. Little background on the kettlebell swing. Really good exercise in a couple of different ways. It utilizes a small implement, the kettlebell. So good piece of equipment to have at home. It's not going to take up a whole lot of space. But they have done studies utilizing force plates that show that the force generated on the backswing with a force plate with a 53-pound kettlebell can equal over 500 pounds of force. So you can generate a tremendous amount of force using a small implement. So really practical for at home, but practical for gaining really good solid strength and cardiovascular endurance. So first off with the kettlebell swing, basically it's a dynamic deadlift, right? So before anyone should start doing a kettlebell swing, it's super highly recommended that you really lay down the foundation of your deadlift. So you want to make sure that that's spot on. So we're going to go over a deadlift real quick just to kind of see what that looks like. Deadlift, and I'm going to stand sideways so you can kind of see it a little bit better. A deadlift is essentially a hip hinge, right? So what we're doing with that is you're keeping your spine in a neutral position and you're pushing your hips back. Kind of like if you were getting ready to do like a standing broad jump or dive into a swimming pool. You know, I'm in this kind of ready position here, right? So my hips are back, mild bend in my knees, nothing substantial, and my knees are pretty much over my foot, a near vertical shin. So I'm gonna grab the kettlebell and push my hips forward. I'm gonna push my hips back, push my hips forward. Really important in terms of the subtleties of this is that it's a push with your hips rather than a lift with your back. Most people that we see doing the deadlift tend to lift a little bit too much with their back. That might be fine down the road when you're, trying to max out a PR and you're doing many hundreds of pounds. You're going to engage every bit of musculature that you need. But in terms of the fundamentals of a deadlift, you're really initiating the lift with your glutes and your whole posterior chain. So again, push and come back. So that's the foundation of the kettlebell swing. The other thing to talk about with the kettlebell swing before I actually do it is that just like we talked about with the deadlift, that it's engaging the glutes, that's what the swing is. It's not a lift up with the arms. The arms will lift, but that's as a result of generating force with your hips. Your shoulders are going to work. It's not a shoulder exercise, but your shoulders will, as the kettlebell swings out forward, you're going to hold that kettlebell back with your shoulders, but you're not actually lifting the kettlebell up. So in slow motion, what a kettlebell, or I'll show you a full kettlebell swing first. So kettlebell swing, we're going to park the bell out in front of us, get into this position. So in slow motion, what that looks like is you're hiking the bell back, your forearms touch your inner thighs, and then I'm going to push my hips forward. As I push my hips forward, the force generated is going to bring that bell up to about shoulder height, and then I'm going to allow that bell to start dropping. I'm going to keep it dropping as my hands kind of get to my belt line, and then I'm going to follow the bell back. Push, it swings up, let it drop down, follow the bell back. The reason that you want to play chicken with it a little bit and let that bell drop all the way is that if I'm still up here and I start to bring my butt back into that hinge, now the weight is still out here and I can't hold that tight core to protect my spine. So my spine goes into a little extension. So you want to keep nice and tight through here and allow that bell to come fully back before you pop it up again. So a couple more tips before we do like a full series of kettlebell swings would be practicing the hike. The hike portion of the kettlebell swing is really the only part that you're really actually engaging your arms, is that initial hike through to start to generate some momentum. So oftentimes when people are new to this, I have them get into the start position and just work on hike, set it down, hike, set it down, so that you can kind of start to get the sense of what it feels like as that weight is kind of changing in terms of like center of mass. Once you feel pretty comfortable with that, then we're going to start with just one swing, all right? It's too easy to like try to do a bunch all at once and then it gets really sloppy. So start with one swing. So what that is going to be is set it down, shake it out, and then restart. That way, if it didn't work out quite right, you're getting a restart and it's less risky for hurting yourself. So again, kind of get set up. When you go to get set up, you want to be able to get into that hip hinge, reach out, touch with your fingertips, and tilt the handle, and that's in a good position. So generally that's going to be about maybe a foot to 2 feet, depending on how tall you are. So set it down. Set it down. Once you feel like that's pretty good, then you start to roll out a couple. Start with 2, then 3, and so on. Once you feel pretty comfortable with the two-handed swing and you're able to roll out 10 to 20 consecutively, and you've been doing it for a while and you feel pretty solid with all that, then at that point you can start working on single arm swings. Now the difference between a single arm and a double arm, besides one arm versus two, is that with a double arm swing, as the bell is coming out, it wants to move this way and you're keeping it from going forward, right? With a single arm swing, as it's coming out, the bell is traveling, but it's only pulling one side. So my body wants to turn this way, but I'm holding it back. So it's gonna work a little bit more on rotational stability, and one side of your hips is gonna get a little more work than the other side. So obviously you wanna do this with both arms to keep it symmetrical overall. So with a one arm swing, everything is the same. I'm gonna show you head on first. But the setup is pretty important. So, if we're with a two arm swing, everything is pretty in line and symmetrical. With a one arm swing, sometimes people reach and they grab, and now their setup rotated. And you don't want to initiate a swing while you're in this rotated spine position, because that can be potentially dangerous for your spine. So a good thing to work on is you're going to grab, and then you're going to position your other hand just on top, which kind of brings my shoulders in line. And I'm going to hike, and then set it down. Another tip, because again, as that bell wants to pull me forward, you can come up and try to match your hands at the top as well, and that lets you know that your shoulders are square and not pulling forward. So set everything up. And that'll help work on making sure that you're not overly rotated and kind of doing what the exercise is intended to do. So those are a couple simple tips to start working on with the kettlebell swing. Great exercise, you can tell just from doing a few. Gets your heart rate up, my breathing a little bit up. But if there's any questions or any doubt with these, always really highly recommended find somebody in your area that has been trained in doing these properly, because while they are an incredibly great exercise, they can be a little bit dangerous with a lot of moving parts. So go out, try them out, and see how you do. Thanks.